Hi there, and welcome back to Easy Peasy English, the podcast where we make English feel more like a friendly conversation than a classroom. I'm Christ, and as always, I'm so happy you're here. Whether you're walking to work, relaxing at home, or just taking a moment for yourself, thank you for spending this time with me. It means a lot. Now, let me ask you something that might feel a little uncomfortable. Have you ever made a mistake in English, and then felt embarrassed? Maybe you said the wrong word. Maybe someone laughed. Maybe you just froze and didn't say anything at all. And after that moment, maybe you told yourself, I'm terrible at this. I should have known better. I don't want to speak again. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. So many learners feel like making a mistake is something bad, something to be ashamed of. But today, I want to flip that idea completely. Because the truth is, mistakes help you grow. In this episode, we're going to talk about why mistakes aren't the enemy of learning, they're a necessary part of it. We'll explore how to look at mistakes differently, how to use them to improve, and how to stop letting them control your confidence. Because when you change the way you see mistakes, you change the way you learn. So grab your tea or coffee, take a deep breath, and let's dive into today's episode. Because today's message is simple, but powerful, mistakes aren't failure. They're feedback. And they're how you grow, ***. Let's get started. Have you ever stopped yourself from speaking English because you didn't want to sound wrong? Maybe you worried about your grammar. Maybe you thought your pronunciation wasn't good enough. Or maybe you were scared someone would correct you, or worse, laugh. If you felt this way, you're not alone. Almost every English learner has been there. And many stay stuck there for years. But here's something I want you to think about. What if mistakes weren't something to avoid, but something to welcome? I know, it sounds strange. Because from a young age, we're often taught that mistakes are bad. In school, we get red marks on tests. We lose points. Sometimes we even feel shame. So, it makes sense that many of us grow up with a fear of doing something wrong. And when we start learning English, that fear comes with us. But here's the truth, mistakes are how we learn. When a baby learns to walk, they fall, again and again. But we never say, you're bad at walking. We cheer for them. We celebrate every small step. We say, wow. You're getting better. Why don't we do the same for ourselves when we're learning English? I once met a man from Korea who told me, I used to be afraid of speaking in meetings. Every time I said something wrong, I felt like a failure. But one day, his manager, who was British, said to him, your English is great. I understand you. Don't worry about being perfect. That moment changed everything. He started speaking more. He still made mistakes, but he no longer let them stop him. And with every meeting, his confidence grew. See, the problem isn't the mistake. It's what we think the mistake means. We think it means we're not smart. We think it means we're not ready. We think it means we're not good enough. But none of that is true. A mistake just means you're trying. It means you're pushing yourself. It means you're learning something new. I've spoken to so many learners who are incredibly smart, hardworking, and kind, but they're silent in English because of fear. And that fear is holding them back from opportunities, friendships, and experiences they deserve. Let me tell you about one of my students, Maria, from Colombia. She was terrified of making mistakes. Even though she had been studying English for 3 years, she barely spoke. During class, she would type her answers in the chat instead of speaking out loud. But I noticed that when she did speak, her ideas were beautiful. Her vocabulary was rich. She just needed more confidence. So one day, I asked her, "What's the worst thing that can happen if you make a mistake?" She thought for a moment and said, "Maybe someone corrects me." I smiled and said, "Great. Then you learn something new." That small shift changed her mindset. She started trying more. She still made mistakes, of course she did. But now, she saw them as signs of growth. Not signs of failure. And here's something interesting, once she stopped trying to be perfect, her English actually improved faster. Why? Because she was no longer afraid to speak. When you speak more, you practice more. When you practice more, you learn faster. When you learn faster, you grow. So really, mistakes are part of the path to fluency. Think of them like stepping stones. You need them to get to the other side. I want you to imagine this: you're sitting in a small group English class. The teacher asks a question, and you know the answer, or at least, you think you do. But you don't raise your hand. Why? Because a voice in your head whispers, "What if I say it wrong?" That one little fear can stop you from speaking, even when you know the answer. That fear is powerful. But you are more powerful. Every time you speak up, even if it's not perfect, you're building a kind of strength that grammar books can't teach. You're building bravery. A lot of people think confidence comes after you're fluent. But the truth is, confidence is built while you're learning. It's built every time you open your mouth, even if your voice shakes. It's built every time you try, even if you mess up. I once met a teenager from Egypt named Omar. He loved English, he watched YouTube videos, listened to podcasts, and followed English learners on Instagram. But in class, he barely spoke. One day, I asked him why. He said, "I don't want people to laugh at my accent." So we did something simple. I gave him a short sentence, and we practiced saying it together. Just 5 words. He said it once. Then again. Then 10 times. Slowly, he smiled. "This is kind of fun," he said. We kept practicing like that for a few weeks, short sentences, no pressure. And you know what? After a month, he volunteered to give a short presentation to the class. He still made mistakes. His accent was still there. But he was proud. And so were we. That's what bravery looks like. Mistakes don't make you weak. They make you stronger, because every time you make one and keep going, you're proving to yourself that fear can't stop you. We often think that speaking well means speaking without mistakes. But actually, speaking well means speaking without fear of mistakes. Let that sink in. You don't have to wait until your English is perfect to use it. Use your English, and it will get better. Think of mistakes as signs that you're trying something new. They mean you're moving forward. You're leaving your comfort zone. And that's where growth happens, just outside of comfort. Let's talk about something important: the difference between learning in the classroom and speaking in real life. In the classroom, everything feels controlled. You study grammar rules. You fill in the blanks. You get points for correct answers and lose points for mistakes. It trains your brain to think, mistakes are bad. But the real world isn't a test. In the real world, communication matters more than correctness. If you say, "I go store yesterday," people will still understand you. You might not win any grammar points, but you've done something much more powerful: you've connected. I once coached a woman from South Korea named Hyejin. She was amazing at grammar. She could explain verb tenses better than some native speakers. But when she had to speak in meetings at work, she froze. One day, I asked her to speak about her weekend without worrying about grammar at all. Just talk. So she said, "Okay. I go hiking. It was cold, but I enjoy a lot." Then she stopped and looked at me like, "That was terrible, right?" I smiled and said, "That was great. I know exactly what you did this weekend. You spoke clearly. I understood you. That's the goal. You see, we're taught that mistakes equal failure. But in language learning, mistakes are how we learn. The classroom says, be correct. The real world says, be understood. You don't need perfect grammar to share a story. You don't need advanced vocabulary to ask for help. You don't need native pronunciation to make someone laugh. You just need to try. And when you try, yes, you'll make mistakes. But every mistake is a lesson. Every lesson makes you stronger. And every time you choose to speak, even with small errors, you're training your brain to communicate. So the next time you make a mistake, don't say, "Oh no." Say, "Thank you. That was a learning moment." Mistakes are not the end of the conversation. They're the beginning of your growth. Let's pause and look at something we don't often talk about in language learning, the voice inside your head. That little voice that says, "That was embarrassing. Why can't I speak like them? I'm so bad at this." Sound familiar? This inner voice, your self-talk, has power. And if it's always negative, you'll start believing it. You'll think every mistake means you're failing. You'll be afraid to speak up. You'll start to avoid English, not because you're bad at it, but because you're tired of feeling bad about it. So here's the shift I want you to make: when you make a mistake, don't say, "I'm stupid." Say, "I'm learning." Don't say, "I'm terrible at English." Say, "I'm getting better every day." Don't say, "Everyone is better than me." Say, "I'm on my own journey." This may sound small, but it changes everything. When you speak to yourself with kindness, you feel more confident. When you stop judging your mistakes and start welcoming them, your fear gets smaller. Your progress gets faster. And your relationship with English becomes something positive, something exciting. I once worked with a man from Colombia named Andres. He told me, when I made a mistake, I used to hit my desk and say, "Ugh. I'll never get this." But then, one day, I asked him, "Would you talk to your best friend that way?" He laughed and said, "Of course not." So I told him, "Then don't talk to yourself that way either." He made a small promise: every time he made a mistake, he would smile and say, "Okay. I just learned something new." It sounds simple. But it worked. His stress went down. His confidence went up. And his English? It improved faster than ever before. Because when your mind is kind, your mouth feels free to speak. Let me tell you something that might surprise you: mistakes don't push people away. They often bring people closer. We worry so much about being judged when we make mistakes in English. But most people aren't judging you at all. In fact, they're impressed that you're even trying. You're speaking a second language. That takes courage. And when you make a small mistake or struggle to find the right word, it doesn't make you look weak. It makes you look human. Think about it this way: have you ever met someone learning your language? Maybe they used the wrong word or said something funny. Did you laugh at them? Or did you smile and feel connected, because you understood the effort it took? That's the same way people feel about you when you speak English. Let me share a quick story. I once had a student from Thailand named May. She was giving a short presentation in English at work. She got nervous and accidentally said, "We eat the customers," instead of, "We meet the customers." People laughed, not in a mean way, but in a warm, friendly way. It broke the tension in the room. Someone joked, "Remind me not to go to your restaurant," and everyone laughed together. Afterward, she told me, "I thought I'd be so embarrassed. But instead, it was fun. And now, they remember me." That's the power of a mistake. It made people smile. It made the moment memorable. And it helped me build stronger relationships at work. So next time you make a mistake while speaking English, don't panic. Smile. Laugh if it's funny. Correct yourself if you can. Keep going. Because mistakes aren't roadblocks. They're bridges, helping you connect, grow, and move forward. Every mistake is a teacher, but only if you let it teach you. Some learners try to forget their mistakes. They feel embarrassed, so they push the moment away. But the best thing you can do is the opposite: pay attention. Pause. Reflect. Learn, asterisk asterisk. Ask yourself, what happened? What was I trying to say? What could I try next time? Maybe you said the wrong verb tense. That's okay. Think about it, look it up, and try again. Maybe you used the wrong word. Great, now you've discovered a new one to add to your vocabulary. You don't need to make notes about every mistake, but if something stands out, write it down. Say it again. Practice it. This turns your mistake into a stepping stone, not a wall. And don't forget, even native speakers make mistakes all the time. They say the wrong thing. They forget words. They pause mid-sentence and say, "Wait, what was I saying?" Mistakes aren't something to fear. They're evidence that you're growing. So let's remind ourselves what we've learned today: mistakes are part of the process, not a sign of failure, but a sign of learning. Everyone makes them, even native speakers. Mistakes create connection, they make you human, not less. The best way to grow is to reflect, learn, and move forward. Don't run from mistakes. Use them. Welcome them. Let them guide you. Because the more you try, the more you grow. Thank you so much for joining me today on Easy Peasy English, the podcast that reminds you learning doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. I'm Christ, and I'm proud of you for showing up, for listening, and for being willing to grow, even through your mistakes. Remember, every little effort you make, even the ones that don't feel perfect, is a step toward becoming a more confident, connected English speaker. Mistakes aren't your enemy. They're your teachers. So go out there, speak boldly, and don't be afraid to stumble. Because with every step, even the messy ones, you're building something amazing. I'll see you next time. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and keep going. You've got this.